Hi, this is Catherine. This is Taking Tea with Catherine. This is jasmine green tea from Upton Tea, and I love it. I love jasmine tea. It's a great way to enjoy green tea when you're not in the mood quite for green tea, but you also want to drink more green tea. I don't know if that makes sense to you. But anyway, it's a good tea. Today, I thought I would do the final London book haul for my last trip to London, which will probably be my last trip for a while, unless any of you want to send me, a free ticket or a free hotel stay. No, then it's gonna be my last haul. Oh, doesn't hurt to ask. But anyway, yeah, no, I'm pretty happy, and I'm not really up to traveling, at least for the next few months anyway. So I'm in the mood to read, so that's good because I have all these books to read. Okay, so today, even though I'm doing this in November, which is nonfiction November, I am showing you a bunch of novels, a bunch of fiction. So, I mean, say la vie, when I did my hauls in October, none of them were Victorian. Some of them were Victorian related, but again, what can you do? And these are not in any particular order of when I picked them up and which shops I got them from. All of them were probably either from Waterstones, Foyles, or Hatchards. Am I missing one? Anyway, mostly from those. And my focus again was always on things that were harder to get in New York, either from the library, because I still like to get books from the library, or just in general to find in a New York bookshop. Sometimes some things are just better to get because you might like the actual cover better, etc. But I try. I don't always succeed, but I try to get things that is a little more difficult to get in New York. Nothing is impossible now. Nothing, because we can buy almost everything online. But I do kind of like getting it from the shops when I can and when I could carry it back, which I could. I did. And so there's a little variety here, but most of it's what I was kind of looking for. There were a couple of things that I hadn't planned on, and that's fine too. So this first one I'm going to show you, I don't know much about it, and I decided to not really know much about it until I read it, because sometimes I just want to do that. I want to go into things not knowing what to expect. But this is a book from Stella Gibbons, and I have only read one thing from Stella Gibbons, and it is the book that pretty much everybody knows her for. And I really liked Cold Comfort Farm. It was funny, and I enjoyed the film adaptation. I saw it too. It was all around. I liked it. That's all. But I found something quite difficult about this particular writer. Is it's really hard to find her books, any other books besides Cold Comfort Farm, in America. I say America like I know everything about every bookshop in the United States, but I've been to a lot of bookshops in New York, which should represent a good part of the book selection in the United States. But also I've been to bookshops in California the past couple of years. I've been to bookshops in Chicago. And I know I wasn't obsessively searching for Stella Gibbons, but I also didn't see it because I'm always very careful to look at the G section of a bookshop. Sounds odd. The G authors, because I'm always looking for Elizabeth Gaskell, and I have found almost all the Gaskell I've been looking for, so I'm good that way. But it was still quite a search. So I was always in the area, and I don't remember ever seeing her beyond Cold Comfort Farm, and sometimes even then it was hard to find. That being said, the one I found has a bunch of chickens on it. It's The Matchmaker. Actually, I found other ones of Stella Gibbons too, but I figured I'd just pick up one because I'm not going to go crazy. Because my other thought was, what if I read this one and I actually didn't end up, realizing why they don't have Stella, why they don't have her in the United States. Maybe she actually isn't that good. But I don't want to operate under that assumption. I actually figure that she's probably great, but we'll see. But I'm actually really excited about that one because, like I said, it's quite a search to find things, even in e-format. Not impossible, but even in e-format, it's pretty hard to find, new or old. And so if I like her, then maybe eventually I will purchase more things online of hers. So, Great Expectations. That's a book, isn't it? Okay, this book, It wasn't a plan of mine to buy for myself, but it's called Oh the Brave Music by Dorothy Evelyn Smith. It's from the what is it? The British Museum? No, I don't know what it's called. It's the British Library. The British Library. I should know this because I know the British Library crime classics. So I think this is like the British Library women's classics or something. This collection, I'm not entirely sure, but I think that's what I'm looking for. I have found some of these in America, actually, in my local bookshop. So this isn't, oh, here it is. British Library Women's Writers. It's just really hard to see from there. Anyway, can you see it? I was actually turned on to this particular type of publication by my sister, who really is fond of this time of the modern kind of mid-century ish women writers, and I think that's what this is as well. And when I visited her in Chicago, my very first day, I was jet lagged, and she took me to a really nice bookshop, and she bought a book from this group, from the British Library women writers, and there were maybe one or two others, and she mentioned another book that she had from this grouping, and I was jet lagged, and I had just taken something for my motion sickness, so I was a little drowsy, but I thought that's great. So when I was looking for fiction, I was looking also to pick up at least one book for my sister, and some of the books I was looking for I couldn't find, so I was focusing more on this group, and I just kept reading descriptions, and I thought, well, this one sounds okay, but I'm not sure if that's up her alley. This doesn't sound great. And every time I was there, I was trying to call her, but it was never the right timing, time difference and everything. So I was reading this, and it says, does it say what it's about? Okay. Ruin Ashley looks back on her childhood in a coming-of-age novel set before the First World War. Okay, so it's a little earlier. Or is it? Maybe it was written. I don't know. Ruin, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing this, I don't know if it's Ruin or Ruan, is an intelligent and imaginative child who gradually comes to understand the nuances of the adult world around her as she moves to the manse, under the strict rule of her father, to Cobbets? Okay, Cobbets, I guess. Her mother's ancestral home, and back to the moor above the town where she was born. Her life is shaped by tragedy, but also the warmth of enduring friendships, particularly with David, who shares her love of the wild expanse and colors of the moor. Sounded a little bit like, if you like Bronte books, maybe you might like this. I don't know. I could be wrong. But I thought, well, it sounds like something my sister might like. So I bought it. And it turns out, yes, it is something my sister would like, because this is the exact book that she bought when I was with her in Chicago. But I was so, just tanked from, all the jet lag, etc. Jet lag of 1 hour. But still, we learned from our mistakes, and now I have a copy, and I'm actually happy I have a copy, because maybe my sister and I could buddy read it one day or not. Either way, it's not a bad thing to have in my collection. And there you go. So now I found another one. This I particularly remember, excuse me, I'm sniffling, very unattractive, from Foyles, because that was I think the last bookshop we visited on our trip, and it was a rainy day, and I was kind of sad because it was the last time that we had in the West End area, which is, even though it's touristy, it's really one of my favorite parts of London. Not when you're smack in the middle of Piccadilly Circus, or Leicester Square, but when you're Charing Cross Road, Covent Garden, thereabouts. I just like it. I don't like it when it's super crowded or super rainy, but it's just pleasant to me. So it was I was in one of those happy moods because I was in a bookshop, but sad moods because I knew things were coming to a close. It's always the problem when you get to go to places you like, it doesn't last, but so at this point I was picking up almost anything that sounded pretty good to me. And this is I was in the historical novel section, and I love historical fiction usually. So this is called The Master of Mesham, who knows, Hall by Anna Abney. It has a little blurb by Joe Baker, best-selling author of Longbourn, which I enjoyed. It says, it's rare for a historical novel to feel so timely. So does this sound timely to you? Excuse me with the nose again. 1665. It is 5 years since King Charles II returned from exile. The scars of the English civil wars are yet to heal, and now the Great Plague engulfs the land, because we need to read more about plagues and stuff, right? When Althea, or Althea, I don't know, I'm going to say Althea, suddenly finds herself cast out on the plague-ridden streets of London, a long road to Derbyshire lies ahead. Militias have closed their boroughs off to outsiders for fear of contamination. A lone woman, Alethea, must navigate a perilous new world of religious dissenters, charlatans, and a pestilence that afflicts peasants and lords alike. So, I do like this time period, and even though I don't particularly love plague time periods, because especially after having kind of come out of a time of, quarantines and whatnot, you would think that wouldn't be so interesting, but it is a different time. And so I hope this is a pretty good one, and maybe that's why it sounds so timely, because of the time period. Let me see when it was published so I can see. Yeah, it was published in 2021, so I guess it is normally. It has a quote from Machiavelli before the story begins. I don't know if that's good or not. It says, "As long as you don't deprive them of property or honor, most men will be happy enough." Wow, that'll be interesting. So this is, again, taking a chance, but I like the color. It's very autumnal, so not enough of a reason, but So this is a book that I got, and I'm pretty sure I got it in the Waterstones that I went to, Gower Street. I feel like I remember that, but it's a little heavier than I expected. Oh, it was published in 2022. So this is slightly timely. It's an alternative history. Alternate or alternative. Either way, it's like if something different happened. So this is James III by Maggie Ballinger. Also a cover that I found kind of interesting looking. I like the pretty flower on the bottom. Sorry, down here. And so this is different. I think a lot of us now know a lot more about the modern royal family than we used to, because it's been on the news so much lately. And if you don't, that's okay. But so this says, when King George VI dies in 1952, his third child and only son inherits the throne as James III. Obviously, this didn't happen because he didn't have a son. He had two daughters, and Elizabeth became Elizabeth II. Hence, alternate history. During a prolonged regency, the young king, because he's young, grows up alongside the slightly older Prince Charles, who, as we know now, is King Charles. Uncle and nephew share similar concerns about their futures, but have different approaches to being in the royal spotlight. In collusion with his protection officers, James is soon managing to escape the confines of palace walls and mingle unrecognized amongst his subjects. Can the insights he gains during these forays translate into the means of influencing government decisions? The parallel story of sisters Lil and Peggy Faulkner from London's East End offer a common people's perception of the crown. Ardent royalists, they have always felt a close association with Princesses Elizabeth and Margaret. How do they, and the rest of the nation, react to the startling discoveries of an investigative journalist from Glasgow? And how does the biggest scandal of all ultimately impact upon the House of Windsor? So I thought that was kind of a different take. Obviously, it's called historical fiction, but obviously, it's very heavy in the fiction. But I'd like to see what is done with this story. I don't know. I just thought it sounded kind of interesting. It's like a book I read a number of years ago, and I wish I remember what it was called. I know I had a copy, and I really should look for it. It was about what if Anne Boleyn actually had a son, and then onward. And it's like it basically starts around when Henry VIII has died, and now this son is the king, and Anne Boleyn is, of course, still alive. So I thought, I kind of like these what ifs. It's like if there was a parallel universe and something just slightly different happened, how would it affect things? What kind of stories would ensue, right? So, okay, that was my choice. So, I had I say goal like I was sitting around saying I must do this or else, but sometimes when I say I have a goal when it comes to book shopping or travel goals, not all of them are so important that if it doesn't happen, I will, my trip is ruined. But sometimes it's nice when a thing that you have in your head does end up working out. So Sorry, I'm drinking a lot of tea today. That's because it's really good. And it's nice and warm. Okay, so I have a couple of, and I know you probably can't see it over here. No, you can't. But anyway, see where my hand is? Below. I have a couple of Persephone books. Sorry, I'm turning my back on you again. I have two like of the paperback versions and one of like the gray wrapping. Well, there's also kind of a paperback, but it's like a slightly different design. It doesn't usually have the picture in the front. Anyway, and they've been issuing these for years. These Persephone books. I think they're usually women writers, and they're also like sometimes books that haven't, been. I don't know the whole story. I should know, but I always get it mixed up with Virago for some reason. But it is usually a reprinting of certain types of books of a certain time period, and I, if I could, which I won't be able to, not just for space reasons, but for financial reasons, but I wouldn't mind having a collection of them, like a whole bunch of them. But it's not like a hard, strong goal of mine. I'd like to just have a few. And so when I was in London, I decided to maybe get one. And I did. And this time I particularly remember it being in Hatchards. So, in Piccadilly. So I don't know, they had a really nice wall of it. So or was it Hatchards? Did I actually? I'm going to assume it was Hatchards. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? I remember looking at that wall, so it could have been Foyles too. But this is why I said I shouldn't be trying to remember where and when everything was from. But yes. Okay. I just thought it was an interesting story. It doesn't have a full description. It just has like a quote from the story, so you kind of have to gauge what it's about just from that. Or you could look it up online, but I don't like to spend too much time looking things up online when I'm in a bookshop because I always feel like I want to enjoy the browse. But anyway, I like the title too, so of course. This one is called Farewell Leicester Square by Betty Miller, who I know almost nothing about, but it seems to be about characters who are dealing with prejudices in London regarding being of like a Jewish background. So I thought, okay, that could be an interesting story, and I want to see what the take is on it. It was written, does it say when it was written? La la la. 1938, it looks like, or is that the end papers? Oh, the end papers are from 1938. So it's a mystery. It was published in 2000 by the estate of Betty Miller, so it could have been written at any time. We'll have to, it looks like it probably was sometime in either the 30s or 40s, so it was an important time period. Anyway, I don't want to spend time trying to figure things out. Obviously, I haven't looked at these for a couple of weeks, so I should be a lot more knowledgeable, but you know what? I like the randomness of it as well, and I hope you do too. So, it's a topical subject. It's always been a topical subject, but it definitely was in that time period, big time. So I thought I was done. I had my Persephone, I had all my goals, but the very, very last day, like the day of our flight, so my friend and I were walking around the area where we were staying, and we happened to take a little detour and find a little free library. And I was like, oh yay, because I really did want to find, I saw some like from a distance, but we weren't able to get to them, and I was like, oh, I really want to see what a little free library in London would have. And I wasn't disappointed because I found Little Boy Lost by Margarita Lasky. I hope I said that right, because yes. So yeah, this sounds actually really intense. It says post-war France, and I don't know much about it. My entire reason for picking it up was that it was a Persephone, but I am pretty happy with it. It was originally £12, and then it was $3.49 in an Oxfam, and now it was free to me. So I said, well, I think this is a nice thing to take home with me. And it even had this bookmark. I don't know if you can see it. Hold on, putting it in my hands like this, so maybe you can see it. It has a little stamp on it. It is hard to read, so it looks like it says to have and to hold on it. I do not know. But anyway, so yeah, a lot of my choices for fiction were a little a bit of a gamble, a little bit of okay, let me just grab it. Mainly because a lot of my fiction shopping was either looking for stuff for my sister, so I was more focused on her and then just getting random stuff for myself. Because I think my main focus ended up being on nonfiction during this trip, but I did want some novels. So this was just sort of okay. This looks interesting. Okay, oh, I wanted to see if this is worth it, and I kind of like that because I'm not that spontaneous usually. I'm not usually that there's another word for it, but you know what I mean. Like just without planning. I usually when I buy books, I don't mind a little serendipity here and there, actually like that, but when I'm traveling, I usually just don't get random books. So I kind of like that, and I did actually have room in my luggage, so I do not regret. But I now have to read some of these books, so I'm taking this to you. Which books of these, if you've heard of them, do you think I should read first? And of the ones that you haven't heard of, which sound interesting to you, or also which ones would you like to see me read first? I don't know when I'll get to them because as you could probably tell from my hauls, I have like a billion books. Um, but I am happy to listen to suggestions anyway. And that is all for now. Trying to keep it short, but did not because I ramble. But it was a great trip, and hopefully it won't be my last one. But again, no regrets. It was good that I had that trip anyway. So I will leave you to your musings and to my tea, and let me know if you've hauled any books lately too. If you like talking about these kind of books and if you like hearing me ramble, please subscribe, like all the things. And this is Catherine at Taking Tea with Catherine. Have a lovely tea and book-filled day.